Wellness Walks with Rach and H. We are back for episode 2. In the first episode, check it out early, we discussed navigating nerves, and today, what are we discussing, Rach?
We're discussing athlete identity today.
Athlete identity. Dumb it down for me.
So the athlete identity is something that, all of us athletes, when we grow up, we want to be an athlete, we want to be the best, and we, take that all on as like our self-worth. We determine, how important we are because we are an athlete, and, being an athlete means like winning, performing at our best, all that side of things. So when we don't tend to, win or perform, then our self-worth tends to be decreased, and we can't, maybe life satisfaction is decreased as well, and we struggle to, move beyond the point of us being an athlete and actually being a person.
So I'm assuming there's a heap of different ways in which we looked at that, because when initially I had this discussion with you around talking about athlete identity, the first thing I thought about was, am I the athlete or is the athlete me? But then I also forgot about schooling, socially, things like that as well, like perspective of who you actually are.
When we do grow up, you have your different archetypes in school. You've got your bookworm, you've got
The funny guy?
The funny guy, the class clown. And so then, then you've got the athlete. And I remember even for myself growing up, it's like, I was at school and I was known as the swimmer.
Yep.
And, even still now today, people still know me as the swimmer at school. So, when we grow up in such a, small environment being a school, you can take on that archetype quite literally, and then it becomes your whole being.
Socially, schooling at the moment, if you are the athlete as such, you're trying to manage all your schoolwork plus all your training. What sort of things should we be looking out for?
So when we start to see that, we're putting everything into our sport, so then, say social life dips.
Yep.
We're probably not, taking our schoolwork more, we're not really putting much time and energy into that. We're just putting everything into our training, or everything into, being an athlete, that all the other cups in life are not being filled. And so when that starts to become overbearing or overwhelming for you, that's when it's time to actually probably take a step back and be like, all right, well, when do I stop thinking of myself as just an athlete and thinking of myself that as say, for instance, I'm Rachel and I am a part of me is an athlete, but I'm also this, I'm also a good friend, good daughter, all that side of things. So, it's being able just to kind of identify what else are you outside of being an athlete.
Mind mapping, journaling, something that's probably a nice practice that could help start trying to figure out who you are and where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one tip I like to give a lot of my athletes is determining what your values are. So what that looks like is being able to sit down and it's like, okay, well, what's important to you? Who and what is important to you in life? And how can we make actions towards that? So when we talk about values, we're talking about connection. We're talking about independence, autonomy, being able to be self-development and all that side of things. So if there's other little, we determine what the values are, and then we're like, okay, well, how can we achieve these outside of sport as well? And, what is going to actually make you a really good person, a really good human, that when you leave the sport, when you are no longer doing it anymore, what else can you do? So then you don't feel so lost, or you don't feel so helpless in that space, because it's really important that we determine who we are outside of sport.
Because I know that's a hard thing as a parent, to try and figure out what we can do as parents, but also check ourselves at that same time to figure out that even though we've got an athlete who may be elite and really good at stuff, what actually matters. Yeah.
I think sometimes, I can't speak from a parent perspective, but, I think when we see our child wanting to do so incredibly well, that we're like, okay, we're going to put all of our everything into this as well. And sometimes we can even be caught into that trap of, training, sport, without actually realizing, no, my kid can also do all these other things outside of it and achieve what they want.
Yep. because I know that I was at the Australian Pool Rescue Titles a few weeks ago, and I was having a really nice chat with Connor Maggs, who is the World Ocean Series Iron Series champion a couple of years ago, still only a young kid, 2021 this year. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about sport, and he was going through how busy his program is and what he's currently doing at the moment. I was like, yeah, but can we just flip it? All right, I'm going to put a parent hat on you now. If you were a parent right now of a 9, 10, 11-year-old kid, what would your primary focus be as a parent? And he's like, oh, for my kid to play as many sports as possible and have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important. And, there is more research coming around lately that is saying that, kids that do multiple sports is actually more beneficial than, honing in all in the one sport.
Yep.
And that's where, I know we were talking about it a little bit last time as well, about that satisfaction within sport, and that's what's leading to a lot of the dropout or burnout in sport as well. Because we maybe put in too much time or too much of our self-worth into the one sport that then we lose the enjoyment of it.
Because the whole reason of which we do it is to, I guess, make connections, friendships, and have fun, right?
Absolutely.
Back to that self-identity thing. So if you are struggling within your sport socially, and also being a young lady, you've been there as well, what sort of things can we do to navigate the angst, the frustration, the isolation of, of you being the athlete and then trying to figure out where you can find that enjoyment?
I would say that, it really depends on obviously the sport that you do. In the sports of where I was growing up with swimming and surf life saving, I was always around a group of people,
yep.
A group of like-minded individuals who also may very well have been battling with the exact same feelings that I might have also been doing or feeling at that point in time. So, whether that might be talking to them about it or organising social hangouts outside of sport.
Yep.
And where you maybe actually designate time where you don't talk about your sport. You don't talk about competitions coming up. You actually put maybe a little bit of a ban on that.
Yes.
Where you actually just go out and you might go ice skating, you might go 10-pin bowling, something that's completely unrelated to your sport that you're able to, get enjoyment from, feel really good from, and socially charged is the word I'm looking for.
Try and, recharge that social battery.
Correct. And that might even be, it's then also with your school friends and everything as well. People hanging out with people that aren't just also within sport. People who know you outside of sport, that value you outside of sport as well, is also incredibly important. And when you feel like you're unable to do that, that might be a time where you talk to maybe mum or dad or your coach or somebody, a trusted adult, let's say, and that's where you think, okay, well, I'm struggling to kind of push myself or, get myself out of this athlete mindset and be able to find who I am outside of sport. And that's where we maybe need to have a bit of a deeper chat about that.
Because I know that there would be points where the young athlete, because they're so dedicated that their friend groups at school might get to the point where oh, actually, got a thing on this weekend, won't ask Rach because she's got that swimming meet on, so more than likely she's not going to come, and then that just becomes a habit where you technically are just getting left out.
Absolutely, I think that can be really challenging, particularly for adolescents coming up, through sport as well. You have all of your friends going out socialising, whether that be at parties or different friend hangouts and stuff, and you might always have this next meet coming up or something big coming up. So they always say it's I remember growing up and all I ever heard was I had to make this sacrifice type of thing. Sacrifice your social life in order to compete, which is to a degree really great. I'm definitely not saying that that's a bad thing, but I do think there is an aspect to that where we also need to not have this all or nothing mindset where we're I need to sacrifice all social events to be the best. You can do both. You can be able to go out and be able to go to an event or go to a social event and not train, not do anything, not even think about sport, and then you're filling up that social cup, you're filling up that other cup outside of sport that makes you remember who you are outside of it, and I think that's really important.
But there's probably a clear delineation though, once you get to a point of maybe 17, 18, 19, when you are making those sacrifices, that is still kind of your decision.
Correct, absolutely. I think, and that's, you know, if we're talking about values there, that's autonomy.
Yep.
That's independence. That's, you know, that's us just being an adult essentially.
Yeah, true.
You know, trying to, you know, come into the big bad world and decide, okay, well, what can I do? What is actually more important to me right now? And I think when we talk about sport, you know, a lot of athletes can get caught up into the mindset that we need to train all the time and that we can't rest type of thing. But rest is a part of training. We need to rest. If we are burnt out mentally, physically, anything like that, it's okay to rest.
Yeah.
And so whether that be, okay, well, if I'm burnt out in this particular, if my cup is completely drained in this area, where can I fill it up somewhere else? So then I'm charging up this other one.
So it's kind of like if you're like a 10, 11, 12-year-old, don't miss the birthday parties, hang out with your mates.
Birthday parties, absolutely. Obviously given reason, but yes, absolutely. I think that's so important that, you know, those friendships outside of sport continue to be flourished.
Yep.
And, you know, go to the event.
Have the sleep in.
Don't feel guilty. Have a sleep in. Have the rest. Recharge your battery, because that within itself is going to help you perform even so much better, because you're not putting so much care or so much of your self-worth into the one sport. You're putting it into other areas. They always say it's like, you know, you can love something so much that you can strangle it.
Yep.
So it's counterproductive, and it's working out, okay, where's that balance?
Yeah, balance is such a tough thing to do. I know, like, coming from a parent's point of view, I had a dancing daughter who danced literally every single day, was locked in to a studio all day Saturday, didn't get to see the light of day, and then would Sunday be a day off unless it was a Stedford sort of things like that. And probably looking back on that now, she was so consumed by everything, had all the friends and everything there, but the hard thing for us was, now looking back as parents, was because it was a drop and run, we probably didn't have enough connection with her mentally, emotionally, to see how she was actually tracking.
Yep.
Because I guess with most other sports where they're watching everything, so the momentum felt that we were already kind of doing the right thing. But it was a really tough one, you know, from a sporting dad to a dancing dad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely it sounds like, you know, your daughter was quite isolated in that, maybe that environment, because she wasn't able to have that connection there.
But it's weird though. Yeah, so all the friends were there, and I think there was an isolation, like in a group setting, if that can be a thing.
Well, I think, I mean, I can't speak for a dancer, so apologies to any dancers out there, but you know, you do go to the studio and you're doing routine after routine after routine. I imagine that, you know, yes, there's some aspects to that where there is that connection, but you know, it is a very intense environment as well, where, you know, you're constantly always performing, and I imagine it's very long hours in the studio as well, which can be really, really challenging.
Yeah, it is a tough one. And then on the flip side, where we have the swimming, surf life saving, all the other sporting, you know, children, probably one thing that I felt that we did okay, that we never woke our kids up for swimming. If you want to swim, you set your alarm, you get your bag up, you go.
That's a good one, yeah.
It was tough. It's more so I could get my sleep, but it's just, you know, like the one thing we've probably always tried to do, and as a parent, was like, this is your sport, not mine.
Yeah, I think that's, and making that separation, and you know, it's working out, why do you like the sport?
Yeah.
Beyond winning, beyond, you know, being a great athlete, it's, why do you do it? Like, what's actually below the surface there further? Like, you know, trying to find out what is really important to yourself. Like, what is it actually going to help you achieve later on in life outside of sport? You know, is it going to help with time management? Is it going to help with, you know, a hard work ethic? All these side of things that, you know, sport is incredibly good at doing, and teaching us all these really incredible traits and skills for later on in life as well.
Well, one thing I do love to see, especially now being around, that I'd say a lot of young ladies your age, that they still love to get out for a social netball, a mixed social netball, things like that, go out for their walks, which is good, keeping them active and healthy. But then having those like fun times with your mates, is that now trends throwing across into, we see a lot of people playing soccer at an older age now as well, which is really, really cool, right? And it's just about that engagement, fitness, tiny bit of skill development, but just having those social outs, so that when you get to your Monday to Friday grind, that you've got that release.
Absolutely, I think that's so important. You know, I always think about like different ways that I could be doing social sport as well. Haven't found that yet, but you know, I love being able to see so many more, you know, girls and women being able to connect on the weekends, in social sport, and it's really incredible that a lot of them are still doing that, and I hope to see that increase over time as well, because it's so important to move your body and also connect with people.
Yeah, probably equally as important, the connection is so important, which is kind of why we're trying to bring you as much information as we can around just trying to be well, but trying to be happier, trying to be healthier, and just keep that just your life enjoyable, because there's a lot of good stuff out here. Now, if we can go back to the self-identity thing, if you're in a space where you feel like you may not be in the right circle, whether it might be sport, coaching, team, friend circle, what sort of tips or suggestions would you have?
Would be to pretty much connect with people within your sport and outside of sport. Have a really good balance within that space, and as I said, go do social things that are outside of sport. Don't talk about sport. Give yourself that break from it. But if you do feel like that's even quite challenging as well, talk to a trusted adult. You can seek support through a sport or performance psychologist as well, if that's something that we need to dive in deeper to, if you feel like it is impacting your mental health. And in that space, it's really important to take care of yourself and being able to explore that. And the other thing as well is that you could possibly do, and being able to actually understand what is your values, what do you really want to achieve within yourself, outside of sport, inside of sport, and why is it important to you. A really great resource that I really love to see is you've got professional Iron women Harriet Brown and Lizzie Wellborn have brought out a Commander training diary,
amazing stuff,
which is really cool. And their training diary doesn't just focus on sport; it focuses on your cups outside of sport as well. So they have done that really incredible job there. It's a really incredible resource if you ever want to look into getting that. And that would probably be my tips.
So what cups have you got?
My cups, well, I've got my family, so I've got beautiful fiance and dog at home, so that's my main cup, and then my family outside of that as well, brother, sister, all that side of things, nieces. My social circle, so I absolutely love going out to dinners, so food is I'm a big foodie. I love to
That's
love
an athlete
food.
thing though, right?
Oh, yeah, always. But just trying new things. Nature's a big one for me as well. Being able to live in this beautiful area and being able to go for a walk. And just being able to, connect with people. I think connection's also a massive one for me too.
Yeah.
How about you? What are your tips?
As much as I hate to say it, the one that drives everything is my golfing cup. As long as I get my game of golf in once a week or once a fortnight, that sort of keeps me going. But obviously the family cup, the family dinner cup is one that doesn't get filled up enough, because having young adult children now, their house is pretty much just Sky and I at the moment. And I know that probably for Sky and I, we're really trying to focus on being active. So we try to get to the gym a few times a week, go for our steps, because we find that when we're not doing that, you just feel just yucky.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Just like mentally, emotionally, physically, and then that usually doesn't lead to a good week. So as long as we're trying to keep those full, and then that allows enough time to catch up with our mates, and then I don't know. But even now, I'm 46 years old, soon to be 46. I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm still trying to figure out this whole thing, because it's tough.
You are living life for the first time every single day.
Every single day, yeah. And I guess that's probably one thing that we wanted to try and just remind you people, that it can be tough, but there's people out there that are willing to help and talk. And the one thing, especially when we come around like the mental health awareness weeks and things like that, like, it ain't a week to speak. Like, I'm just happy to sit with a mate in the mud, and we know that something's going on, and then you'll go home, and then 10 minutes later you'll open up the conversation via text.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's being able to know who your people are that you can open up with in a non-judgmental space. I think as humans, we naturally judge, and that's why it can be so terrifying to speak out. But finding your people and being able to feel like being vulnerable is very uncomfortable. The brain doesn't like that, so it's being able to find that person, find your people, and sit in silence if you need to, or be able to say, hey, not doing well, and checking in on your mates. Obviously, Are You OK Day is going to be coming up soon, so that's really important to do.
Excellent. All right, so let's recap. So athlete identity, we need to keep yourself aware. But even like things like that, right? Like just like that,
Tigers.
just those tiny little connections in the morning, like so important, just to get the endorphins going, put a smile back on your face, because obviously I feel that happiness does start with a smile, because then it just flows through to the rest of your body, and you can kind of control those things every now and then. So anyway, back to the athlete identity. Check in on yourself firstly, right?
Yep. Yeah,
Make some notes.
Check in with yourself, find out what you value. Look at yourself as more than just an athlete. What else are you really good at?
Yep.
You know, actually, Ted Lasso's first. Have you watched Ted Lasso?
No, I haven't, but
really?
should.
You should, because the first season, one of the main characters, you know, is going through an identity crisis of, you know, retiring and that side of things.
Yeah.
So, you know, finding out who you are, and there's a really incredible scene where one of the other characters brings his niece in front of him, and she goes, "Describe Uncle Roy to me." She speaks all about all these other things outside of sport.
Yep. Wow.
He's funny, he swears a lot, and I love him. And, you know, I think that's so powerful, because, you know, for Roy then, he was just like, well, there is a lot more to me than just being a footballer. It's a really great series. If you should watch it. Very wholesome. So yeah, finding out what is more important to you, or like who are you outside of sport?
Yeah.
What do you want written on your tombstone at the end of the day, is what I sometimes say to my clients. A bit morbid, but do you want to be just known as busy, or do you just want to be known as an athlete, or do you want to be known as a good person, somebody that was reliable, loyal, etc.?
No, I'm with it, because that's pretty much all that drives me. On my dying day, whatever that may be on my tombstone, just to put that he was a loving, loyal, caring guy, and really, really funny, and that's pretty much what drives me to, you know, be the best version of myself.
Exactly, and with sport, it's only one chapter of your life, not the whole book.
But you do meet some amazing people through it, though.
Oh yeah, and those people can continue to stay in all the chapters outside of that. But, you know, it's important that you are more than your sport, and to recognise that.
That's it. All right. So we want you to check in on yourself, write down what your values are, whether it be in the sport, your personal values, what you may or may not want to achieve. If you are going to set some goals, make sure they're realistic too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes we can fall into a bit of an unrealistic optimism, which can be a bit tricky. But, you know, making sure that they are, you know, you can measure it, they're specific, all the really good stuff that, you know, you're able to take small steps in achieving, rather than it being this big, gigantic goal.
I get it. And what do they say comparison is?
The thief of joy.
The thief of joy. All right, that's going to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. Wellness Walks with Rach and H. We're going to bring you some more just jovial chats about things that we've learned along our way as athlete and parent / coach and whatever else.
Sounds good.
All
Love
right.
it.
Thanks,
High
guys.
five.